Have you ever looked at your bank account and felt a quiet sense of dread? You have worked hard for 30 years and followed all the traditional rules of saving. But every time you see the price of a simple meal or your monthly utility bills, that number in your account feels smaller. It feels like you are running on a treadmill that is slowly speeding up. You are not alone in this feeling of uncertainty. Most people today are worried that their savings will not be enough to last 20 or 30 years. The truth is that the old milestones of retirement do not mean what they used to. In the past, having a few $100,000 felt like a guaranteed victory. Today, that same amount can feel like a drop in the bucket of inflation. But there is a specific moment in your financial journey where everything begins to change. It is a moment where the weight of the world starts to lift off your shoulders. We call this the crossover point. It is the exact day when your money begins to work harder than you ever could. Once you reach this point, your contributions from your paycheck actually stop being the main character of your story. This shift does not happen by luck or by picking the perfect stock at the perfect time. It happens because of a fundamental law of math that most people give up on far too early. If you are in your 50s or 60s, you are much closer to this explosion of wealth than you might think. Let us look at the reality of why most people feel stuck. Data from the Federal Reserve shows that the median household approaching retirement has about $200,000. On paper, $200,000 sounds like a significant sum of money. But when you apply the 4% rule for safe withdrawals, it only provides $8,000 per year. That is less than $700 a month to cover your entire life. This is why so many people feel like they are failing, even when they have done everything right. They are stuck in the early stages where they are still the primary engine pulling the train. Think of your wealth like a fire that you are trying to start in the middle of a cold night. At the very beginning, you are the one doing all the heavy lifting. You are gathering the wood and striking the matches over and over again. This is the first major milestone of reaching $100,000. Charlie Munger famously said that the first $100,000 is a nightmare. It is difficult because every dollar in that account came from your sweat and your sacrifices. If you invest $10,000 and it grows by 7%, you only make $700. That amount of growth is barely enough to notice after a full year of waiting. You might look at that tiny gain and think that investing is a waste of time. This is the exact moment where 90% of people make a fatal mistake. They stop contributing because they cannot see the mountain through the fog. They decide to spend that money on a new car or a vacation because they want to feel a reward today. But if you can survive the grind to $100,000, you have officially built the foundation. You have proven that you have the discipline to handle wealth. Now imagine that same fire has finally caught onto a few large logs. The sparks are turning into a steady flame that provides actual warmth. This brings us to the second and most important milestone of $500,000. This is where the magic of the crossover point truly reveals itself. If you have $500,000 invested in the Standard & Poor's 500, a typical 7% return is $35,000. For many households, $35,000 is more than they can afford to save from their salary in a single year. Suddenly, your money is performing better than you are. The growth of your portfolio has become the primary driver of your future. You are no longer the engine pulling the train. You have become the passenger, and your investments are the locomotive doing the work. This is the psychological shift that changes your relationship with stress. You start to realize that if you missed a contribution 1 month, the world would not end. The momentum of your $500,000 is now too strong for small setbacks to stop it. But the journey does not stop at the crossover point. Once you cross that threshold, the acceleration becomes almost frightening to watch. This is the third stage of reaching the $1 million mark. Many people think that getting from 1 million to 2 million will take another 20 years of work. But the math tells a much more exciting story. Because your base is so large, the compounding effect enters a phase of total self-sufficiency. A 10% return on $1 million is $100,000 in a single year. That is a six-figure salary that you earned while you were sleeping or traveling. In fact, it often takes twice as long to save your first 500,000 than it does to go from 1 million to 2 million. The curve of wealth does not move in a straight line. It bends upward like a rocket ship leaving the atmosphere of the Earth. Early on, you need a massive amount of fuel just to get off the ground. But once you reach orbit, you can travel incredible distances with almost no effort at all. This is why your age is actually your greatest secret weapon. If you are 55 years old today, you are entering the prime years of this compounding curve. The dollars you saved 20 years ago are finally maturing into their full power. You might feel behind because you do not have the $1 million account yet. But if you have $300,000 or $400,000, you are on the edge of the explosion. You are standing right before the tipping point where your money takes over. This leads us to a concept that provides immense peace of mind called coast fire. Coast fire is the realization that you have already saved enough to reach your ultimate goal without adding another penny. If you have $300,000 today and you leave it alone for 10 years, it could grow to over $700,000 at a 7% return. If you can wait 15 years, that same amount could grow to over $800,000. This means you do not have to grind yourself to the bone in a job you hate for the next decade. You can choose to work a job that you actually enjoy, even if it pays less. As long as you cover your daily expenses, your portfolio will handle the retirement part for you. You are no longer a slave to the forced savings rate. You have won the game of time, and now you are just running up the score. Of course, we must address the elephant in the room of the year 2026. Lamb fat and the rising cost of healthcare are real threats to your purchasing power. This is why we cannot simply hide our money under a mattress or in a low-interest savings account. Cash is a melting ice cube in an environment where prices are rising. To reach the crossover GM, your money must be invested in assets that grow faster than the cost of living. Historically, the stock market has been the most reliable way for the average person to outpace lamb fat. Even during volatile years, the long-term trend of the market has always been upward. Your job is not to predict the next market crash. Your job is to stay in the game long enough to let the math do its work. We often hear people say that you cannot take it with you when you die. While that is true, having financial security is not about being the richest person in the cemetery. It is about the freedom to decide how you spend your Tuesday afternoons. It is about knowing that you will never be a financial burden on your children or your grandchildren. It is about having the power to say no to a toxic boss or a stressful situation. When your portfolio generates more income than your job, you are truly a free person. You are no longer selling your hours for dollars. You are living off the harvest of the seeds you planted years ago. Let us look at how you can combine these investments with other sources of income. Social Security is the backbone of retirement for millions of people in the United States. By the year 2026, a typical retired couple might receive over $4,000 per month from Social Security alone. If you add a conservative withdrawal from a $500,000 portfolio, your total income could exceed $6,000 a month. If your home is paid off, $6,000 a month provides a very comfortable and secure life. You do not need to be a billionaire to live like a king in retirement. You just need to reach the crossover point where your basic needs are covered by passive growth. The road to this point is not always easy or exciting. Most of the time, building wealth is incredibly boring. It is about making the same boring contributions to the same boring index funds month after month. It is about ignoring the noise of the news and the panic of the crowds. But the reward for this boredom is the ultimate prize of an yen life. Imagine waking up on a Monday morning and realizing that you do not have to be anywhere. Imagine the feeling of checking your account and seeing that it grew by $5,000 while you were playing golf. That is the reality of the crossover point. It is the moment where the friction of life finally disappears. If you are just starting out, do not be discouraged by the small numbers. Every forest began as a handful of seeds. If you are in the middle of the climb, do not give up now that the slope is getting steep. You are closer to the peak than you have ever been. Wealth is not built in one lucky year. It is built through the relentless power of time and consistency. Shift your focus from how much you are saving to how much your money is growing. Celebrate the first time your dividends pay for your groceries. Celebrate the first time your market gains exceed your monthly mortgage payment. These are the real milestones that signal you're approaching freedom. The second million is waiting for you, and it will arrive much faster than the first. Stay the course and trust the process. Because eventually you will realize that your contributions do not matter anymore. Not because you have stopped growing, but because your money has finally found its own strength. And that is when everything changes for the better. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope these insights give you the confidence to keep moving forward. Remember that your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. Make them count.